Hello and welcome to the third episode of the Business Gems podcast. Now today we're joined by Amy Lester of Typing and Tasks. Amy's going to be talking to us all about running an effective VA business.
Hi Amy.
Hello.
Hi. We are so delighted you've come on our podcast, Business Gems, and we're so excited for our audience hearing everything that you're going to be sharing, because I know it's going to be immense. So, Amy, let's kick off. Let's find out all about you.
Yeah, sure. So, my name's Amy Lester. I am, I guess, by day a virtual assistant. I've been running my business now for coming up on 5 years, full time. Alongside being a virtual assistant, I also help mentor sort of up and coming VAs, existing and established VAs, and also executive assistants who are maybe struggling with the position that they're in with their role. Maybe they are looking for a way to progress. Maybe they've kind of hit a wall in terms of the type of services that they're offering, and they're looking to kind of level up and figure out that next step. I've been running my business now for 5 years. I work with a range of different clients, in lots of different industries, which keeps me very busy. Alongside that, I have a 6-month-old who is my little boy, Isaac. He's hilarious, and he's sort of in training now to be my little admin assistant. But yeah, I've been doing this for a long enough time now that it keeps me very, very interested. It's actually the longest I've kept one job. So I'm definitely doing something right. And yeah, just thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm just happy to join you.
No, we're really happy. And what was interesting, you said about you work across different industries. So could you elaborate on that? What fields do you work across?
Yeah, sure. So I've got a couple of clients that work sort of in marketing agencies, a couple of clients that work in recruitment. You know what? You keep me in a job, so it's fine. I wouldn't have a job if everybody was good at admin. And then I have a couple that are sort of more creative. So I have 2 clients that work very much in like entertainment and sort of video production. And then all the way through to sort of contractors that do kind of, go out and work on building sites, and keeps me very busy. So, quite a lot of variety, but it means that no 2 days are the same. And a lot of sort of what I do, like I might apply to one industry, but then there's the opportunity to be able to transfer that into kind of a different industry as well. So yeah, keeps me on my toes. I've got 9 different clients that I work with at the moment. So yeah, some of them one-man bands, some of them small companies, some of them quite big companies. So yeah.
Oh, I love, and the fact you've been doing it for 5 years, and you said this long as you've done a job shows how much you love it. So I mean, yeah. What makes you kind of love it and get out of bed every day to do it?
I mean, I don't always want to get out of bed to do it. Some days are very stressful. I think the thing for me is I get a lot of fulfillment working with the types of clients that I work with. So generally they're sort of time poor. They need that support to actually be able to kind of do the things that they're good at and the things that give them sort of joy and give them fulfillment, and being able to kind of help people in that way. I've had jobs previously where they've been very much like lifestyle businesses, and you basically just feel like, first of all, like every day is Groundhog Day, and that you're not really making a difference. Whereas now, obviously, running my own business, I can be selective about the clients that I work with. I'm very lucky. I actually don't onboard clients very often because I have retained the majority of my clients since I actually set up. So I've been working with some of them for sort of 4 or 5 years now. And being able to kind of help them to grow their businesses, that gives me a lot of sort of satisfaction, I guess, in a way that, for me, working for one company didn't always sort of have that same like motivation. And also, you know, it's mine. And I think if you're that way, kind of, if you're wired that way, that, you know, especially the kind of like the side stuff that I do, you know, particularly like the mentoring and that kind of thing, that doesn't feel like work, because, you know, that's just talking to people about my experiences and sharing that knowledge. So yeah, I guess this is just a bit of a change in mindset versus sort of working in a job where you don't really feel like you're making an impact.
See, I kind of get it, because it's very similar to what I do, and I'm exactly the same as you. So Social Gems is the longest job I've ever had, and I love what we do because of the variety of clients that we work with. No 2 days are the same. It always keeps you on your toes and keeps you engaged, rather than oh, I've got to do that again.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you on that one. That's one of the main reasons I like doing what we do, and why we never niche down into a certain specific area.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
And I think I'd actually genuinely struggle to work with exactly the same people in the same sectors, because how can I think of different things to write for them? They're all going to sound bloody same.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, with my job, you know, I'm very lucky that I've had a lot of experience of working with, you know, different software platforms, or, you know, different tools to kind of streamline processes, or, you know, make things a little bit simpler for people. And that means that if I was just working in one industry, there's generally only, you know, maybe a handful of applications that people in that particular industry use. But being able to kind of work across different industries, you get experience of different platforms and different ways of operating, which then I can then feed that back to my clients. Equally, I'm very so I can also kind of facilitate introductions between my clients. So one of the big things as a VA is obviously keeping sort of client confidentiality, which is sort of number one, really. So the majority of my clients, if you went on my LinkedIn, if you went on my website, you would have no idea who I work with. But there are certain instances where my clients actually end up working on things together, or have meetings, or kind of know each other, either through like, you know, I've introduced them, or just because the kind of industries kind of have kind of synergies that mean that they have ended up in the same place at the same time. But being able to kind of facilitate those introductions, or suggest, you know, oh, well, have you thought about asking this person to help you with this, is another really good thing about working across different industries. And actually COVID as well, when I'd actually just quit my job when COVID happened, and a lot of VAs that were very niche. So, for example, if you were kind of a medical VA that only worked with, like, for example, doctors, or somebody that worked quite heavily in events, obviously when COVID happened, everything got shut down. Their entire business disappeared overnight. Whereas I was quite fortunate in that process, because I had clients that were in different industries, which meant that, you know, maybe one or two of them had gone quiet, but other ones ended up actually being really busy. And it was sort of, I made quite a quick decision then that I would never focus solely on one industry, because you really don't know what's going to happen. And I would never kind of want to be in a situation where I'd put all my eggs in one basket. So yeah.
That's a great top tip, Amy, is absolutely make sure that your business is agile with the planning, with the clients. Yeah. Well, but Amy, I'm really, really interested. So, you know, for our audience, if anyone's really wants to set up their own VA business, how would they start? How would they go about doing that?
I think really my number one piece of advice is to just go for it. I think personally, I spent a lot of time actually just procrastinating over, have I got the website set up, and have I got, you know, the business cards ready, and have I got all of my services outlined and identified? And I spent a ton of time kind of procrastinating over it. But actually, I quite quickly realized that sort of speaking to people and saying, you know, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm thinking of doing, would you be interested? Do you know anybody that would be interested? And kind of getting that feedback, and then you can kind of start working through it, you know, when you, for example, bring on one client or start having those conversations, you can quite quickly identify, well, these are the things that people need help with, and I'm really good at them. So figuring out what people need and what you're naturally good at is, you know, that's the quickest way of doing it. You can waste so much time just kind of trying to make sure everything's set up and perfect in the background, but actually sort of throwing yourself into it. The people that you're speaking to don't know that you've only been doing it for 5 minutes. So, you know, having those conversations early on and building your confidence is the quickest way to kind of start to establish yourself. And equally, those conversations that you might have might not turn into anything, but that doesn't mean that sort of 6 months down the line they're not going to, or they might even introduce you to people who could be potential clients. The other thing I would say is trying to kind of think ahead. So as much as you're kind of jumping into it and sort of figuring out those services as you go along, you also want to make sure that anything that you're setting up is, you know, either scalable or kind of sets you up with the right framework. So for example, non-negotiables, particularly with a VA business, insurance, obviously making sure that you've got your kind of protection in place, your professional indemnity, that kind of thing. Contracts, so you know, you can get contract templates. There's providers that specialize particularly in VA contracts, but you can also find them, you know, online, that to give you a good starting point and making sure that they're watertight.
So like service level agreements, yeah, as I would know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and making sure that those things are already in place, making sure that you set up a separate business bank account, so you're not messing about with trying to figure out what money is yours and what money is separate. So having those things in place takes a lot of stress out when, you know, you are sort of further down the line, you've got a full bank of clients, and then you're trying to figure out, well, actually, did I buy that coffee when I went out for, you know, dinner with the client, or is that personal, or do you know what I mean? I'm trying to unpick all of your kind of finances and do it sort of retroactively. So yeah, I would say just don't worry about it, don't overthink it, jump right into kind of promoting yourself, making those connections, but alongside that, making sure you've got the kind of the core pillars of what you're going to need to have a business that that is protecting yourself ultimately at the end of the day, to make sure that you're not getting yourself into any sort of sticky situations further down the line.
And I think that's the thing that a lot of people forget in the beginning, is the insurances and just how important they actually are to have in place. And yeah, we've all done it and gone, oh, do you know what? I'll put that on business. Oh, I forgot my card. I'll put it on this and I'll sort it out later. But then actually trying to sort that stuff out later is a nightmare, even if you've got 2 different separate accounts. So yeah, trying to do it on one, I couldn't think of anything worse. But yeah, it's not common knowledge. It's not something that any of us know from day one. And by actually having people like you to give that little bit of advice and guidance, it's effectively worth its weight in gold. So you've been, as you said earlier, that you've been running your VA agency now for about 5 years. So what have we seen in that time, and what trends do we think we're going to see in the next couple of years?
I think the big thing that's kind of coming through at the moment is a lot of people are very nervous about AI, and that AI is going to replace like administrative functions, and that you know, there's not going to be a requirement for administrative staff in the workforce, because, you know, AI can replicate a lot of the kind of repetitive and you know, sort of more mundane, which is the stuff I quite enjoy doing, but the more mundane kind of repetitive administrative tasks. That's probably the biggest thing that's kind of coming through. And I think one thing I am sort of trying to champion and kind of trying to promote, particularly you know, through like my LinkedIn and things like that, is that we don't really need to be afraid of AI replacing us. We actually need to figure out a way that it can help sort of administrative staff, so, you know, your executive assistants, your virtual assistants, to actually take away a lot of that work that it can do, so that we can focus a little bit more on being a strategic partner for the executives that we're supporting. And, you know, we can be there kind of alongside them. And particularly from a VA side of things, what that then enables you to do is obviously charge a higher rate and, you know, work on at a slightly higher level, because you're not doing the kind of repetitive tasks that need to be done, because AI can take care of those for you. And that's probably the biggest thing I would say that is coming out of this year. You know, things like ChatGPT. There's a lot of focus on, you know, automations and, you know, kind of platforms sort of talking to each other and making, as I said, taking away a lot of that manual work that typically would fall to somebody like an executive assistant or a virtual assistant. And I think is something that a lot of people are quite nervous about.
So, and what, you know, listening to you, Amy, how I'm seeing the VA assistant is more like a business strategic partner for businesses, isn't it? To grow, that
Absolutely.
takes the operations, the you know, the absolute development to help support the business move forward. Because, you know, I suppose when you hear the title role, people don't realise that, and I didn't realise that, what actually it encompasses so much to help people. So, you know.
It does. Yeah, it does. I think that's quite a common misconception. You know, certainly if I had to list out the actual various job roles that I have with just the clients that I work with, there's at least 10 different job titles there that, you know, it's not just diary management, it's not just email management, it's project management, it's events management, it's you know, for example, the clients that I work with in more of the creative space, I've like production managed massive projects for them. You know, it isn't necessarily just that repetitive type of work, but the more of that kind of repetitive low level work that we can use something, you know, use AI to actually support us with, means that, as you say, we can become more strategic. Certainly, you know, my relationship with my clients is, it's not like a sort of an employee-employer type dynamic. It's we're in partnership. You know, I have really good relationships with all of my clients. That's why I work with them. But, you know, I will be the person that goes to them with advice or suggestions. And as I said, you know, that could be, you know, I've done this. One of my other clients has just started looking at this particular platform or using this software for this. Have you thought about it for your business? Or, you know, being able to kind of oversee in their entire business, because in, you know, a lot of the cases with my clients, I'm the only other person that's in their business, certainly, you know, on a, you know, like a sort of a full-time basis in terms of, you know, the duration. So being able to kind of offer that more strategic and more consultative service, and actually having more time to offer that, and being able to, I guess, charge more money to offer that, there really isn't a downside for sort of EAs and VAs being able to actually embrace
it's real sounding
kind of potential.
Yeah, it's a real, so you're playing the sounding board, and I think it's amazing if you're a new business or a business where, you know, it is just you, having that, if you like, business strategic partnership, you know, a VA, I think is instrumental in helping move that business forward and grow. And and I'm taking your point. So I had a conversation yesterday with someone about the fact they didn't think they were ready to launch their business because they were trying to go for the perfection. And I explained that the perfection does not exist. Yes, we all strive for it. Just absolutely jump in. Your business will grow and evolve, and you will learn and you will adapt your business as you go. Yeah, and it's constant. I said every business, this happens where everyone's evolving and growing. I said, so don't hold yourself back. So I think that advice you gave at the beginning is really, really important that people take that on board. Just go for it. You've nothing to lose.
we say the exact same thing when it comes to social media, because quite a lot of people will hold themselves back when it comes to posting through fear of what other people are going to think of them. So what I tend to say to people in that situation is, today's news is tomorrow's chip paper. People aren't going to remember what you said in the beginning. They're going to remember how you made them feel when you spoke to them, and the journey that you've actually taken them on through the content from them following you in the beginning. That one standalone post isn't really going to make that much of a difference. And I think a lot of us do get into our own heads and hold ourselves back quite a lot.
Yeah.
I know I've done it personally myself, because you do. And like with Social Gems, in terms of our offerings, and like yours, Amy, it's evolved over time because of what people have needed from us. You have an idea of what you need to be doing in the beginning, but that idea will evolve and change as you know more about what your ideal client actually wants and needs from you.
And
exactly.
Moving forward with technology as well, I think it's really important. I know you're both, absolutely embracing that, because you can't run away from the future. You have to run towards it and work out how it's going to adapt and improve your business enhancement and, support your clients in the right way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we did a podcast recently with Chris Branch about AI and the advancements and how it's affecting marketing, to be fair, because there is quite a lot of marketing people that do feel the same way as VAs at the moment, that they're scared that it's going to take over. But in reality, it's just going to enhance what we're doing. It's going to help us think about things from a point of view and a perspective that we've never thought about it before. It's going to give us far more ideas than we ever had. But the human element is always going to be needed, because realistically, AI is a robot and it lacks human emotion. So that emotion's always going to be needed to be put back in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think certainly, within the kind of VA and EA space, I guess, so for me personally, I'm very good at like executing tasks. So you tell me what you want me to do and I will do it. But if you say to me, I don't know, can you create me an operation strategy day, I want to do a team building day, can you pull all of that together? I would obviously absolutely be able to do it, but I would procrastinate over that. Like, should we do this, what order should we do things in, have I got, is there enough breaks, etc. First of all, VAs operate on a time-based system for the majority. So clients pay for a set amount of hours. You're probably wasting a ton of that time actually just thinking about what you're going to do. So, for example, one really effective way to use things like ChatGPT is you can literally put in there, give me a 5-hour team building day. It needs to include these elements. It needs to include, 4 30-minute breaks. It needs to include X, Y, and Z, and it will give you that framework. So then what you can do is, with your knowledge and your experience, and your clients, and how they're going to work, and like, do they want to do it in the morning or an afternoon or a bit of an overlap around lunchtime, and taking all that knowledge that you've gained from working with them on a one-to-one basis, you can put your personality and the kind of that knowledge into the framework. But it's taken away that procrastination time of having to actually think of what that framework would be. And I think that's the way that, particularly in my industry, that's how we need to start embracing it. We need to think about the things because nobody's good at everything. We need to think about the things that we find challenging in our jobs, or that maybe we spend a little bit longer doing because they don't come naturally to us, and it's not a natural skill set. And is there a way that AI can help with that? Because I think a lot of sort of existing software that we use, things like Canva, for example, are picking up on that whole AI sort of functionality within what they're doing. And again, that's taking a lot of the thinking work, or scrolling through trying to find the right picture, where you can literally just type in the picture that you want it to create and it'll create it for you. VAs are in the business of saving time, so where's the downside?
Do you know, that's amazing. You're right. It's, if you're using it to help develop yourself as well and make things quicker and more efficient. So like team build day, I build them all the time, and our master coaches and that deliver them in organizations and businesses. So for me, I don't even think about it. I can build what I need to do because it's everyday thing for me. In delivering, it's everything. But actually, like you said, the things I'm not very good at, actually, why am I not using the AI more to help improve myself, to then use that and develop? So no, I really I really like that mirrored idea that you've just reflected. So I will definitely be taking that away, Gem. I know we took a lot from our guests already, but that's a brilliant one. So Amy, you do mentoring. So I've got to say, we'd love to hear about that, how you mentor, because that's something that we're very passionate about with what we do with Be Kind, Give Time as well, myself and Gem. So it'd be great to hear about that.
Yeah, so it's probably something I've only started offering, I'd say, in the last year. And there's a bit of variety there in terms of the types of people that I work with. So I offer kind of a one-to-one power hour with sort of newer VAs, or VAs, as I said, that are kind of hitting a bit of a sticking point. Maybe they have started, literally hit the ground running, and they've got to a point where, there's certain things that they haven't implemented. So they haven't, jumped forward in time and listened to my advice about having the right insurances and registering with the ICO and doing all of those lovely things that you need to do to make sure that your business is safe. And now they're in a situation where there's, I guess, they're now at sort of capacity or approaching capacity, there's issues there where they're not quite sure how to navigate them, and maybe they just need somebody else's kind of insight, or somebody to kind of look over it as a whole, or people that are looking to get into the kind of VA space, because I think it's something that is quite intriguing to people, particularly obviously people that work in that kind of administrative function. But as a concept, it can be quite overwhelming, because if you look at the kind of different ranges of services that VAs offer, some VAs are really specialist in things like social media or marketing, or do a little bit of copywriting. Some VAs are very technical and are very good on particular platforms. Some VAs, I would say, are more kind of traditional in the sense that they're doing things like diary management, email management. And if you actually just look at it as an industry as a whole, I think it can be very overwhelming. So one thing I found quite a lot of value in is sitting down and said one-on-one with aspiring VAs or very new VAs, and talking to them about where their strengths lie, and what kind of services they should be offering, and how to find the clients that those services will benefit. Because I think whilst, when you've kind of been doing this, so as I said, for me, for example, I'm kind of at capacity now. So if I get kind of new leads, I actually don't have any time to help them. But a lot of people struggle with actually, getting that first client, and then that second client, and then that third client, and then figuring out, how to structure their time so that they can complete all of that work. And what happens if you're working with a client that actually you don't really want to be working with, or it's not working out? Like, what do you do in that situation? So actually being able to kind of sit down and sort of give advice on that, and suggestions, has been is a really important sort of aspect of what I do, and it's something I find a lot of fulfillment in. And then off the back of that, I'm actually, not to kind of plug something that isn't ready yet, but I'm in the process of setting up like a group coaching program that I'm probably going to try and launch a little bit later in the year. So that's, it's over a period of 8 weeks, and we'll have kind of the regular kind of weekly check-ins, so I can provide that advice and that kind of support to VAs that need it, but instead of it being 1 hour, it's over the course of 8 weeks, and there's a group of people all in the same boat and sharing those same experiences, which should help with obviously that kind of collaboration of ideas, and again multiple different industries and multiple different experiences. And it's something that I very much enjoy doing, and as I get a lot of fulfillment out of.
And it's really important with your program, you're also going to be building a network. So the bit that you earlier is really important. So when you're at capacity, actually you're getting leads. Well, you can then match people and say, well, I highly recommend this individual. I think they're the right match for you. Go and have a conversation. Well, with your program, you're all going to be sharing ideas, learning, growing, etc., but networking as well and supporting each other, because a network should support each other. So
absolutely. I mean, that's essentially what I have in place at the moment. So I work with a VA agency that they actually were very kind and helped me with my maternity leave, so I could take some time off to be a mom. And you know, I have a partnership with them, and you know, 100% recommend them anytime anybody sort of approaches me about working with me and I don't have the capacity. But again, you know, that's the nature of why sort of group coaching programs and things like that are so beneficial, because it can be a situation of like, I can't help you, but I know and can recommend and vouch for this person that can. So yeah.
See, I just want to go back to the bit where you actually mentioned about you being at full capacity and you understanding that and knowing that you've not actually got any more room for any more clients. That's something a lot of people, especially when they start out in the beginning, struggle with. They're like, well, where's my next lead coming from? I don't know, so I've got to take everything. So so that's something I want to talk to you about. So how do you ensure that you have the right work-life balance? And what advice would you give people as well, just to make sure that they can have a better work-life balance going forward?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a work in progress, and I would never say I 100% have that figured out. I mean, if people follow me on LinkedIn, I actually posted a story quite recently where I was really excited because I got a very cool founder message me, and I was so excited because I really wanted to work with her, and literally onboarded her. And within a day was like, I just don't have the capacity to support with what she needed. And for me, historically, I would have absolutely soldiered through. I'd have figured it out. I'd have been working all hours. But unfortunately, it's not unfortunate, but I have commitments now outside of work. I can't do that. I have a family. I have a very young, 6-month-old son. I have to set clearer boundaries. And that's been something, as I said, that's very much a work in progress for me. I guess a couple of things that have really helped me is trying not to be that yes person, and try not to be a people pleaser and just keep saying yes to things. Part of that is just experience, that I know when I am overwhelmed and I know when I am hitting that capacity, because it's not always just about the hours. With the VA job, as I said, the majority of VAs work on retained or ad hoc hours. You could be doing 5 hours worth of work for somebody that actually isn't that kind of brain intensive. There's probably a better word for it than that, but like, it doesn't take up that much of your brain capacity. Or you could be doing 5 hours for somebody where it's literally, you've got to concentrate super hard and it's very intense. Just because on a spreadsheet or however you're tracking the amount of hours that you've got, it looks like you've got capacity. It doesn't always translate. So I'm very good now at recognizing when I'm overloaded. As I said, it also helps that now I have a little boy that he doesn't really care if mum's got too much client work. If he needs a bottle or he needs a nap or he needs a cuddle, like I'm having to clock off. So I try now very hard to sort of set those boundaries in terms of when I'm at work, and when it's sort of family time, I'm 100% in family time. And that was actually a piece of advice that one of my clients kind of gave me around the time that I went off and had my little boy. Another thing that I did, so again, I'm sure you can imagine working with 9 different clients, I have a lot of emails, and I have pretty much an email inbox for every single one of those, and I also manage some of their inboxes too. One thing that I did quite early was I separated like my sort of my comms, I guess. So I have two phones. So I have like my personal phone and I have my work phone. And on my work phone, I've got things like Slack, and I've got obviously all my clients on there on WhatsApp, and I have access to all of their inboxes, but I don't have the notifications switched on. So when I am at work, I'm sat in front of my laptop and my computer, and I have both of my phones, so all my clients can reach me. When I'm not at work, that work phone has WhatsApp, it has my business email, and then, as I said, like Slack or Teams or whatever they use as their like internal comm system. And all of my clients know if they need to get hold of me, they need to WhatsApp me. If it's the weekend, they know that that phone generally won't be monitored anywhere near as closely. And, if I happen to go out the house for a crazy, I don't do that very much anymore. But if I, do go out and, I'm out for dinner or anything like that, obviously that phone doesn't come with me, because I'm not and this is me personally, I am terrible if I know there's something that needs to be done. Like, my clients are always like, oh my God, you're so efficient. Oh my God, like, I don't know how you do that so quickly. How do you get everything done? How do you manage everything? And genuinely, the reason that happens is because I cannot continue to function if I know that there's something that needs actioning. So the only way, personally, I had to set the boundary, because I would never want my clients to think, oh, it's the weekend, I can't message her about this, because my job is to stop them having to think about it. So they need to be able to sort of get that information out, whether that's an email, whether that's a quick WhatsApp, whether that's, however they need to stop thinking about it and delegate it to me. That needs to happen. But I need to have a boundary. And for me, that boundary is everything that's going on is on my work phone. And if I choose to check my work phone at the weekend, there's going to be work that needs to be done, but I can make the choice about when that happens. If I've got time, I've got like a couple of hours free and I want to kind of get ahead of the week, as you do when you run your own business. Sometimes you think, like, I've got a really busy week coming up. I'm making a conscious choice. What was that?
You've got to love a little bit of Sunday prep.
Yeah, exactly. That happens on Saturday for me. Sunday, I can't function on Sunday. But yeah, like, you dedicate that bit of extra time. I've chosen to go in and dedicate that bit of extra time. And I know that then when I'm done with that, the work phone can kind of go back away. There isn't a level with, again, the type of job that I do and the type of clients that I personally choose to work with, where my job can be quite reactive and there are things that happen that might be urgent. Like, for example, like one of my clients might miss a flight or lose a bag, or, there's things that sometimes happen. The way that I structure my business is that that's absolutely fine. But the wonderful thing about being a VA and the VA industry as a whole is there's like a myriad of different levels of that. Some people choose to work around their kids' schedule, so they might only work, 9 till 3. Some choose to work in an evening, and it has that flexibility. So making that work for the individual, I think, is the most important thing. And instilling those boundaries for you personally, as opposed to kind of sort of expect, it sounds awful, but you can't always expect everybody to respect your boundary or even know what your boundary is. So in some ways, you have to be the one that says, this is where that is. Like, 6 p.m. at night, I'm in family time now, and I've made that decision that now I'm offline. And as long as you kind of communicate that and that people are aware of it, generally speaking, nobody has a problem.
And Amy, I think that's so important, because we create our own boundaries. And when people say the word, it's like, well, you're causing it because you've created it. And I'm also a big believer in what you said. I think it's important that you spend quality. It's not always about the quantity, it's about the quality time. And I love the fact that you've got separation. There's some amazing business gems for people, for our audience there, isn't there, Gem? And I think that, and I know, Gem, your business is huge. It manages lots and lots of different things, and I know you're an expert in exactly what Amy said about how do you balance it all. So it'd be good just to have a bit of your insight, Gem, on that, actually.
So I'm as bad as Amy. So what I've started doing is booking weekends away
in places like going through Airbnb and looking for places with no Wi-Fi to make sure I can't work and that I actually do have extreme. That time on. But I am like literally, I'm exactly the same as you, where if I see a message, I'm like, I want to do it, and I can't leave it. But if I'm at home, because my office is at home, I find that I'll just go tinker, and then 3 hours later, I'm still in my office and I've not actually done anything that weekend. And then by Thursday, I'm tired and I'm cranky because I'm overworked and I've got no one to blame but myself. So I have to, like you do, remind myself of the repercussions of doing stuff like that, like taking on too much work. All that effectively is going to end up doing is meaning I'm either letting myself down or a client down because I'm spreading myself too thin. And it's that side, because effectively the reason we're doing things the way we do things and why we want to react to it so quickly is, one, because we're passionate about what we do and we genuinely care about people. So we want to do it. We don't want to say no. We want to be that support that they actually need. But in reality, we need to remember that we need to be that support for ourselves first before we can do it for anybody else. Otherwise, that's where it all falls down. So something I'm learning massively too at minute, to be fair. But I wanted Gem to share that because when she told me a few weeks ago, I thought it was an amazing idea. Take yourself off with your family in the middle of nowhere, and that is pure quality. Honestly, that is absolutely, and you know, some people need to do that because that's the only way you're going to switch off. And I just think
it's a work in progress for sure.
But you've got to be conscious of it all the time.
Yes.
Remind yourself, and I think that's so important. But hey, Amy, but before you go, because you know it's been absolutely amazing. I have loved all your business gems. I've learned so much in this podcast. Everybody needs a VA, a strategic.
I do.
Everybody does need a VA. That's what I've taken away from. Fabulous. But what I want to do is, so every week. Every podcast we ask our people coming on, our guests, to give a question for the next person that's on our podcast, our next guest. But before I tell you what your question is going to be, I actually have a question from a previous podcast guest. So the question is, if you weren't doing what you were doing now, what would you be doing?
Oh wow. Could it be anything?
Well,
anything.
Literally, the question came because he'd been watching a podcast recently of one of his favourite rappers, and his favourite rapper had said if he wasn't a rapper, he'd have been a fireman. Yeah.
Wow. So, okay.
If you were doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing?
Going to be a really nerdy answer. So my degree was in archaeology and ancient history. Like I really love, and pretty much my entire degree ended up focusing around like Roman history and Pompeii, and you know, or that kind of time period, basically when Pompeii erupted. So I think if I could do anything and didn't have, you know, children and commitments, I would love to have gone and kind of either literally being like a tour guide or like a curator in kind of an Italian museum or in one of the kind of archaeological sites in Italy. That was like the thing when I was kind of doing my degree, that was like the pipe dream that just didn't really pan out. But yeah, if I could do anything, that would probably be it.
So
really
like
nerdy.
Indiana Jones, yeah? Kind of female. I didn't actually realise we had that in common. So I did A-level history and just did my degree in business. I wanted to do it in history because I wanted to be an archaeologist.
Yeah,
I loved that type of stuff. Love history, but my favourite was Russian history.
Oh, that's unique.
So, audience, we have Laura Crofts here today. So we've got Amy and Gem. Absolutely can see them both doing this.
Maybe that was it. Maybe it was Lara Croft. I used to love Tomb Raider. I think maybe
cool.
Yeah, maybe that was it. There we go.
Because that was similar, like eras, wasn't it? Of stuff that we watched as kids.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So, right, before we go, Amy, I want to know what your question is. So you don't know who we're going to ask it to. So give me a question of what you would like us to ask our next guest.
Okay, so if you could work with either in a client capacity or an employee capacity, any TV character, who would you choose?
Oh, I'm loving it. That's a great question. Oh, fabulous. And do you know, it's been such a pleasure meeting you, getting to know you. I know the audience is going to get so much from this show. So, Amy, absolute pleasure. Honestly, me and Jem are so grateful. And thank you.